Often I have been asked the question about how to evaluate a particular industry, and if in case there is a possibility for a particular business to grow in that industry. Now this is a very interesting topic because if you see, um, technically speaking, when Toyota started making cars, by that time when Toyota started making cars and selling them in the US market, by that time you had established companies like Ford, General Motors, Volkswagen, and Mercedes Benz. Okay, they were established companies which were already in place. Then how can a new entrant like a Toyota come and take a lead in the particular industry? Now, when we try to understand industry, there are academic frameworks available which are like PEST, PESTEL analysis. They talk of SWOT analysis. They talk of uh, value chain analysis. But here, I would try to propose a simple and a very business-focused way to understand an industry and to do industry analysis. There are four things that any good manager must be able to do to find out if there is a scope for them to step into that industry and make a mark. First is that he should study the industry evolution. Second, he should study the consumer or the customer requirement. Third, he should study the cost drivers. And fourth, he should study the productivity drivers. Now, also understand that customer requirement, when we are talking here, there are various customer segments. So there might be the requirements of one particular segment which has been covered by the existing solution, but there might be several of the segments whose needs are not being covered by the existing solution. Now let's take the case of the airline industry and try to understand all of these perspectives from there. So what do we mean by the industry evolution? Well, the airline industry, as it evolved, it moved from, there was a one major technological change which happened, which was movement from propeller to jet engines. Now this was where companies which were successful in the propeller technology, like McDonnell Douglas and all, they could not cope up with the change or could not believe in it, and that's when Boeing came in and became a real big player in the jet engine space. That's where Boeing and Airbus and all dominated this industry space. Now the evolution of industry also keeps in perspective what was the technology which has been used at that time, who are the competitors at that point of time, and who are the possible competitors now. If there are earlier companies which were there in that particular industry which have not survived, why have those companies not survived? There needs to be an understanding about that. Now let us look at customer requirement. One has to look at customer requirement which has not yet been met. Now things like, all customers will always like things to be faster, better, cheaper. So in case you have a new segment identified, or you have a way to do things faster, better and cheaper, then yes, of course, there is a need, there is the analysis would then state that there is a possibility for you to get into this particular industry. Third is cost drivers. When we look at airline industry, one of the fundamental cost drivers was fuel. Over time, as the if you study the way the cost of fuel went up, there was a time when fuel was cheaper than water in America. So therefore, the habits and the ways the airlines industry worked, did not consider fuel as a major expense. Later, as and when the fuel prices went higher and higher, this became a major thing. Now, and therefore, you will see companies like American Airlines and all going bankrupt at the same time. Southwest who is fundamental wired around the fuel, around the cost driver of fuel and other drivers, has been very successful in that industry. And the last is productivity driver. If you look at instances like we have talked of Toyota coming into the US market and displacing Ford General Motors. But also remember that Toyota today has been challenged by Hyundai. How has that happened? So Hyundai has seen some productivity drivers which they can do better than even Toyota. So therefore, always keep a watch on the productivity drivers, what Japanese call as muda. Where are the waste which is happening in the value chain of the existing companies? And in case there are productivity drivers which you have in control better than the existing players in the industry, then yes, there is a reason for you to be successful. So the question here is that when you analyze a particular industry, look at the industry evolution, look at the consumer insights and the segments which needs have not been served, or if the existing customers are being could be served by faster, better and cheaper means. Look at the cost drivers and look at the productivity drivers. Once you have these four in control and you have got a proposition that you can work out around it, you have a business model in place and go ahead. If the business model is not there in place, if these things are not being able to be comfortably addressed by you, then you will definitely be there. There might be the demand outstripping supply. In that such a case, you still have a proposition and a chance in that industry, but not for long.